Welcome back to our Illumination video part 2. Now that we know the story of what's going on in this bestiary illustration, Illumination, if you're not sure, make sure you've watched part 1. Let's talk about what's going on. So, why is this tiger so weird looking? Why does it have a neck like a giraffe, a face like a weirdo, weird ears, weird nose, weird tail? Why is it blue and spotted? Well, let's think about tigers in the Middle Ages. This monk who made this painting lived in England. Are tigers native to England? No, they are not. Would a monk ever travel to India where the tiger lives and where the knights who probably saw the tiger and then told the monk about it went? Would a monk go to India? No, he would not. So this monk has never seen a tiger and would just rely on the stories that people told him about the tiger to understand what it looks like. Think about if someone is trying to tell you how to draw something and your eyes are closed so you have no idea what it looks like. You probably would draw it really weird, and that's what the monk did. So he's never seen a tiger in his life, and he's just going to draw what he thinks it probably looks like based on what he was told. Same thing with the baby tiger, which is white. I don't really know why the monk thought the mama would be blue and the baby would be white, but maybe someone was very confused when he told him what the tiger looked like. Now, again, this tiger is inaccurate, but it's more important to the monk to tell a story about what it means. This tiger, it's not important that he's blue. It's not important that he has a long neck. It's not important that she's blue with a long neck with spots. What's important is that she represents not letting your vanity get in the way of your senses. This tiger is so vain that she completely ignored and lost track of her baby, enough that the knight was able to steal the baby. That's what's important to the monk. Now, backing up to using our tool for interpretation, when I ask what the subject is, the subject isn't that story I told you. It's not the blueness. It's not the vanity. The subject is quite simply the tiger, the knight. That's it. Now here's different pages from a different bestiary. Again, this is the same type of thing where we have a bestiary, meaning that we have animals and explanations about what they mean. This one is pretty cool because the monk was trying some fun things, like trying to make these little pearls look 3D. So they tried actually pretty hard. We even know his name, which is probably why it looks so good. Domenico Cavalca. And so this dog would represent loyalty and the connection between humans, hence the hand petting him, and our dogs. And then this griffin is not real. Griffins are not real animals. They are creatures that they were created in the Middle Ages to tell stories and have morals. So this griffin was part of the Ashmole bestiary, and I've put them together because if you were to open a book, a bestiary, you might see this exact thing. You might see an unreal animal like a unicorn next to a real animal like this Wolverine. A unicorn is not real, a Wolverine is, even if this Wolverine doesn't look accurate. And that was because it's not important to the monks if the information is correct. What's important to the monks is what story they are telling. And of course, you have to know the subject in order to understand the story. Now we get to talk about my favorite part of Middle Ages art. Out of everything in the Middle Ages, I love Marginalia the most. Marginalia is a pretty long word. It might be cut off a little bit here, but it means doodles in the margins. The margins are those big sides of your paper where you don't have the writing. Now, think about your life. Think about how often you doodle. Some of you probably doodle more often than others. But then think about if you had the life of a monk. You wake up at 6 a.m. You say a prayer. You go to breakfast. You study in the holy books. And then you go to work drawing very, very detailed pictures inside these expensive books, either religious books or moral books. And you have breaks for lunch and breaks for prayer and breaks for studying, but that's it. The monks don't get to go play games. They don't get to go to the store. They don't get to play on their phones. They didn't have any phones. So they get bored. And what are they going to do if they're very talented artists and they are bored and they have paper and pens and books in front of them? Probably doodle. So we have here a doodle of a snail pig because their doodles were silly. They just did funny, sometimes inappropriate stuff that didn't really make any sense, such as a snail pig. Snails actually were one of the first memes, believe it or not. The monks were obsessed with snails, and just like you see memes, people will change them just slightly but keeping the joke the same. They did that with snails. We have here a knight fighting a giant snail. You can even see the book that he's supposed to be working on. We have here, this one is not including a snail, but we have this dog who's dressed up as a religious leader teaching a bunch of birds. And by the way, this one probably has a moral. Sometimes these doodles had morals and would represent human failings, such as a priest who maybe just wants to prey on, or well, this dog would be eating, but the priest might be stealing from his congregation. This Marginalia has this giant bird man, and he's carrying this lady who's fighting what looks like the devil inside a backpack. Over here, we have more of these snails, that snail meme. We've got an old man snail. And rabbits are jousting. This rabbit's holding this dog and they're jousting together. And here's another snail. This one is a goat snail who is about to get attacked by this person. Kind of looks like an old man mixed with a baby. Another snail. Remember, they can't let this joke go. This is a deer snail. And here you can see how it works in an actual page. You've got the writing and you've got the detailed, beautiful illustration that's supposed to be here. And then you have this lady hunting a rabbit. You have this part that probably relates to the story, but I doubt this little weird head thing needs to be there. You have this person who's blowing a horn, two horns out of one mouth. You have this unicorn that's kind of impaling this monkey. And you can even see some of their original work that they didn't finish. They put a lot of work into their doodles. So now, Marginalia was not the point of the manuscript. You wouldn't buy an illuminated manuscript for the Marginalia. You would buy it for the message. Marginalia was just for fun. But it is important to bring up that sometimes it had another message. The monks liked to teach lessons. And so if it did include some kind of message, that message was going to be more important than the skill. Now let's go back to our main overall topic. How do you interpret art? You need to interpret art using all of your tools. You need to use subject matter, form, meaning the artistic skill. You need to use the process and use of media, and you need to use historical context in order to really understand art. So I'm going to very briefly talk about all of these things with illumination. The subject matter, as we saw, always matched whatever the writing was about, unless it was marginalia. That was just silly doodles, and that just related to whatever the monk was thinking about. The form and the structure, the artistic skill, was usually not very good in the Middle Ages. They weren't as talented as modern artists because they weren't as motivated. They didn't get any credit. Process and use of media, they are putting pen on paper. And as you saw, it took a long time because they had to paint every single page multiple times. And historical context. You need to know what these monks were doing. They lived in these churches for hours and hours. They would paint and do nothing else with their lives. They didn't go out and see things like tigers or giraffes. They probably did see things like cats and dogs and horses, but that doesn't mean they drew them very well. And using those tools, you could interpret any one of these illuminations that I've shown you. But remember, we're going to talk mostly about subject matter. Now, today's assignment is this worksheet. You should have it already. You're going to look at this illumination and answer the questions about it. Please make sure you read every single answer. Some of them are going to be very obvious, some of them are not. Let's talk about what we're looking at really quickly though. We've got 3 cats. This cat is walking and it's looking at some birds. This cat is holding a rat. And this cat is being a normal cat and probably licking its tail area. So you're going to answer the questions about the illumination. And then after you've answered the questions, these questions also relate to the illumination. So read the instructions, read the questions, answer them, and then post it on Blooms for me, or bring it into school if you are one of my at-school students. And on Monday, I'm going to make sure that you have some homework to do. I'm going to briefly show you the worksheet. Also relates to illumination. Here's the illuminations in colors that you're going to see. We saw them today in our lesson. So if you have any questions, let me know. I hope this was helpful.